one night in Logan. Spend the evening with the Bellamy Brothers. Healthy Kids Society presents the Bellamy Brothers, Wednesday, August 9th at the Logan High School Auditorium. With special guest, the Katie Matthews Band. Tickets start at $20 and are available now at thefit.ticketsauce.com. The Bellamy Brothers, Wednesday, August 9th, 7 o'clock at Logan High School. Get your tickets at thefit.ticketsauce.com.
Self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. Self-monitoring is power. Visit managerbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association, in partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Health Resources and Services Administration.
Learn how to keep your money NCUA safe at ncua.gov.
It's time for the Garden Guide with your host, Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden.
New research suggests that people are more likely to eat vegetables if they have a tempting name.
What would life be without homegrown tomatoes? Only two things that money can't buy, and that's true love and homegrown tomatoes.
From gardening to landscaping.
Today we are going to try and create garden eyebrows. Kind of like the flowers are sprouting directly from your hair. That makes sense.
Phone lines are open at 753-KVNU or 800-369-KVNU.
Kind of like eating vegetables.
It's the Garden Guide, now on KVNU 610 AM and 102 FM.
Good morning and welcome to the Garden Guide. This is Mark Anderson with Anderson Seed and Garden, and it is another beautiful morning, another beautiful Saturday morning. Let me add to that a little bit. And wonderful time to be outside. We've got some warm temperatures. The tomatoes are starting to grow. I've got cucumbers that are starting to show up on my plants, and squashes, and just harvested a couple kohlrabi this morning, and the beans are all in flower. It's a great time to be outside and to be out in the garden. And the flowers are looking really great too. And so we're seeing lots of production out of our vegetables and flowers, and things are looking good. But we are seeing a lot of stress as well too. It is a little bit hotter, so lawns are stressing a little bit more. I'm starting to see a lot of photos of yellow patches on people's lawns, seeing some diseases, seeing some insects, and of course everybody's got grasshoppers like crazy. So it's been an interesting year, and of course right now, middle of summer, middle of July, we're dealing with all the usual culprits that we have right now, whether it's powdery mildew or whether it's grasshoppers or mosquitoes. Kind of a new twist this year with all the with all the moisture. We've seen a lot of mosquitoes. So, but a lot of great things happening at Anderson's this weekend. So we've got our Mad Money sale going on right now. And if you're not familiar with the Mad Money, from the 1st of March until now, if you've come into the store and you've made purchases and we've put it on your customer number, which is basically your phone number, for every $10 that you've spent in the store, we give you back $1 in Mad Money. So about 10% of your purchase goes back into your Mad Money. And then during our Mad Money sales, you can come in and use that Mad Money just like cash for up to half of your purchase. So let's say you came into the store and you needed a couple big trees, and so you bought a selection of larger trees. You spent $500. You would have $50 in Mad Money to come back in and use during our Mad Money sale. And that $50, you could use it towards another tree that was $100 and get half price off that tree. So it's our best sale of the year to reward our customers that have been in and have seen us multiple times or just even one time throughout the spring to give back. So this is your opportunity. We've got our Mad Money sale going on right now. So it's been going this whole week, and today is not the last day. We're actually going to extend it a little bit into next week because we had some glitches with our email system, and so we weren't able to notify all of our customers about the sale earlier in the week when we wanted to. And so we're going to continue that through Wednesday of next week. So you still have today, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week to come in and use your Mad Money. But that's not the only time. You can do it also in September. In September, we'll start our bulb exchange. So you can exchange your Mad Money for bulbs in September when all the tulips and daffodils and hyacinths and crocus all show up. We'll have a tulip exchange at that point. So you'll be able to exchange your Mad Money for tulips. And we'll also have another Mad Money sale in December. And that's when kind of the holiday season's starting to wrap up for us and wind down. And we will have another sale. And, of course, everything that is on sale already, you can get the sale price and also use your Mad Money towards that as well, too. So right now we've got roses on sale. We've got all kinds of existing leftover flowers and perennials and vegetables that we've put on sale as well too, trying to find a home for those for the summer. Those are on sale, and a lot of other items on sale as well at Anderson's. And so not only do you get to use your Mad Money, but you get to use the sale prices as well too. So it's a great time to come in, use your Mad Money, take advantage of some of those deals that we've got going on. And it's our way to reward our customers, our loyal customers that have been coming in and seeing us all throughout the spring. So the other update that you probably need to be aware of is we've got some new fruit trees coming in the first of next week. So we've been kind of waiting for this next batch of trees to come, and we've got 400 fruit trees and a little bit of everything coming in. So we've got more peaches, we've got more nectarines, we've got apricots, we've got cherries, we've got some more apples and pears. A lot of the varieties that we have been out of for the spring since the first part of May. They're all coming back in again. So we've got some gorgeous trees. They're in 7-gallon containers, and they're coming in from Oregon on probably Monday or Tuesday. We don't know exactly when they're going to show up. But if you've been looking for some peaches or some nectarines or some specialty fruits, we've got those coming in next week. So put that on the calendar. Monday or Tuesday, Anderson's going to be stocked again with fruit trees for the rest of the summer, so we're excited that those are going to show up. And a lot of great things happening. Good time to be outside in the garden. Last night I was out pulling a few weeds, fertilized my corn, and got the water going on that. So it's nice to be outside. We do have a special guest on the show today.
Finally,
Arthur Taylor. I know I have to start the show. I have to like tell everybody what's happening before I go. Okay, Arthur, now you can talk. Arthur Taylor from Sunstruck Gardens is here, and you know what? I was out adjusting my handy cages last night in my tomatoes.
Well, that's great, Mark.
My tomatoes are getting so big, they're growing over the top of my cages already. How do I
I'll tell you how do I fix that.
Yeah.
Cherry towers.
Yeah, the cherry towers.
You need cherry towers.
They're the big handies.
The big handies.
I've started replacing a lot of my... Well, I haven't replaced because they're still good.
Well, you use them.
Yeah, I'm using them, but I'm starting to add the big handies to the rest of my handy cages because my plants are just getting that big.
I like to call it building your core strength. You start out with a big handy and then surround them with some little handies, and then you'll grow a huge tomato
really big tomato plants, yeah. So I've got about 30 tomato plants, which seems like a lot, and when they're all producing the latter part of August, it is a lot. But I've got a selection of handy cages on some of them and some big handies on others, and then some of your sun cages on others as well too. And some of those sun cages, I think they're like 20 years old. I don't remember when you first started making the sun cages.
Long time ago.
Yeah, and they're still hanging. They're still hanging in there.
Yeah, but I sure try to steer people towards the handy and the big handy.
Yeah,
easier to store.
I have to admit, with the handy cages, so much easier because when I start my tomato plants, I put my aquadomes on them, and the aquadomes are pretty good sized, and they will stay inside the aquadomes until they're growing out the top. This year, I left them a little bit longer than usual because I was out of town when they started growing out the top, and so they got like an extra week to grow. So some of those plants, I had 12 to 16 inches of growth out the top of the aquadomes, and the aquadomes are already 18 inches tall. So that put my plants at 30 inches or so
to
start. And with a regular tomato cage, once they're that big, you can't put a regular tomato cage on them. It doesn't work.
It's tragic, is what it is.
It is.
It's a tragedy.
End up breaking all those branches off, and so using the handy cages, what I can do is I can gently take the aquadome off my plants, and they're usually a little bit floppy because the aquadome's been holding them there.
Need some support.
And so I'll just kind of hold them there, and I bring one piece of the handy in and put it on one side, and then I take the other piece of the handy and bring it in and put it on the other side, and then I just perfectly holds my plant up.
Boom.
Yeah, it just doesn't get any better than
We
that.
support everything that grows. That's what we do.
Yes. And so not only are my plants growing over the top of my handies now, but they're starting to produce fruit. So we've had ripe cherry tomatoes already, which I wasn't sure if we'd have by the first part of July this year.
I don't know how we pulled it off, but we had a couple of like 4 or 5 Roma tomatoes.
Yeah, nice.
And my wife made a wonderful fresh Roma with some angel hair pasta, a little
there
garlic.
You go. Nice.
It was excellent.
And some fresh mozzarella.
Well, sure, yeah. We go with the Parmesan because we don't.
For those of you that didn't know, Arthur does have some Italian background, so we have to talk Italian food.
Better than that. Yeah. I'm Sicilian.
Which part of Sicily is your family from?
My father's family is from Musamel, Sicily.
Okay, and that is where?
That's in the middle.
High
on a mountain.
Kind of right in the middle.
Yeah.
Right there.
I think we're going to go there one day.
At the foot of Mount Etna.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'll never be able to tell the story that my dad told when he was in World War II, and he went. The only time he had ever been there.
Went back to the
but
homeland.
He went to Musamel, and the whole town came out to greet him. But I can't tell it the way he did.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a good story. That's a great story. Phone lines are open. We're talking handy cages. We're definitely going to be talking about the Wonder Walls today because I'm using my Wonder Walls like crazy. And we've got Arthur Taylor from Sunstruck Gardens here, and we're talking local manufacturing about an amazing product we sell at Anderson Seed and Garden, the handy cages.
For like 14, 15 years, a long time.
It's been like 15 years.
No, 2004 was the first time you bought them.
Was it 2004?
That's almost 20 years.
That is almost 20 years. Yeah, that's crazy. And I still have some of those.
I still have
those
ones.
prototypes.
Yeah,
I'm still using the prototypes. That's how great they are.
It was cool. You know, we came up with this idea. We needed it for something completely different.
Yeah.
And then I'm sitting there thinking, well, what if we take one of these corner trellises and add another one? And the handy cage was born.
There you go.
I spray paint it green. I drive it down to Mark.
This is the actual true story. Yeah.
I drive it down to Mark and say, you interested in these? Yeah, I'll take some.
Hey, sometimes we're always willing to try something new. And it's been one of the best things we've ever brought into the store.
Thanks.
Yeah, for sure. Phone lines are open. You're welcome to join our conversation here on the Garden Guide this morning, 753-5868, 753-KVNU.
And may I say, you've been a wonderful customer over the years.
Oh, we try our best. Yeah, we try our best, you know.
Always cheery, always looking forward to the next idea.
And we always pay our bill.
Every yes.
So isn't that the most important part of a good customer?
This morning is I got here
early. Yeah.
That never happens to me.
And
then you were
and I got here a little bit late. That's because I was turning the water on my corn that I didn't get to finish watering last night.
I'm going to have to do the show.
That would have been all right.
And then I'm thinking, well, what if somebody asked me a question? And I'm thinking, I'll just make something up.
I'll just make it up. Yeah, there we go. No, we don't make up anything on the Garden Guide. But we do have a caller waiting patiently. We've got Kathy on the line. Good morning, Kathy, and welcome to the Garden Guide.
Good morning. Thank you. I hope you're well today.
We're doing great this morning.
I have 2 questions. I have a peach tree that did not bloom this year. If it did, it froze.
Yes.
Would it be bad if it's getting too tall? Would it be bad if I trimmed it off in the summer, or should I wait? Or
not a bad thing to do. We don't want to do severe pruning, but you can definitely do a little bit of pruning throughout the summer, and it will not affect your tree at all. I had the same problem. I've got a couple nectarines, I've got a couple peaches, and not a single flower on them. Nothing.
Yeah, that.
Yep. They leafed out. They look great. I was very concerned in February when we had those below 20 below zero temperatures.
Yeah.
I was very concerned. I was like, oh, man, my peaches and nectarines are just going to get hammered. And they actually came through really well, but they didn't have a single blossom on them. Nothing.
Yeah,
So
that's where my peach trees, apple tree and plum tree, are doing best.
they look great. Yep. Plums are loaded. My apples and pears are absolutely loaded. In fact, we probably need to talk about thinning on the show today. There's too much fruit, so we got to get those thinned.
Is it too late just then? Because
it is not.
I know. Okay, good. That's not the question I
it's-
wanted to ask. Okay,
no, that's all
roses.
right. Yeah.
I have 2 rose bushes. The other ones are going gangbusters, but these 2 almost look like they are going back to their original thing, that the leaves are smaller,
Yes.
the roses are smaller. Is there anything I can do to save their lives?
Roses took a beating just as much as the fruit trees did this spring. And fortunately, the roses have been blooming, which is nice, even though our peaches and nectarines did not. But a lot of loss on roses this year, and they died down to the ground. And when that happens, if you've got new growth that comes up from below the graft, so where the desirable roses are grafted onto the hardier rootstocks, if you've got growth coming up from below that graft, it's going to be a wild rose. And it's going to be smaller leaves, and the flowers aren't going to be as stunning. And it's at that point it's time to replace it and put a new rose in. And I would suspect most of our rose growers in the valley this year lost close to 50% of their roses. They just didn't make it through the winter. Or if they did, you just had to cut them down to like an inch, and then
there's just dead.
Yeah.
Nasty, stickery.
Yep.
Stems on.
This week I'm going to get into my mom's rose patch, and there's a few that we just got to yank out and replace. And there's some that just came back. They came back. Yeah, I was like really surprised. They've done very well. They've been completely neglected this year because we've been too busy doing other things, and it's time to really get those cleaned up. But some of the roses that we thought were totally dead, they've actually put out some pretty good growth. But roses really. That temperature, those sub-zero temperatures in February really did a lot of damage. And so if you check and see if that growth is coming up from below that graft, just get rid of it. If you have good growth above that, you can just trim it off and then encourage the good growth above the graft to continue. And and I fertilize my roses really consistently every month. Starting in late March, well, actually, starting about first part of April, we'll go once a month all summer until August, and just feed.
Now, spraying Pro Bloom on them, is that going to good, bad, what?
The Pro Bloom would be great for those. In fact, the roses just like to be fed consistently, and they like to be pruned consistently. And if you stop pruning, they'll stop blooming. If you stop feeding, they'll stop blooming. And so that's why we feed every month. So there's a consistent source of fertilizer for them. And every time they bloom, prune those roses off, and it will encourage more flowering. And so you prune and feed, prune and feed, prune and feed. So
I can do that. Thank you so very much.
You are welcome. Thanks for calling this morning, Kathy.
Can I interject a fun fact?
Yes.
You know the cobbler's children have no shoes, right?
Exactly.
But Anderson has a really nice garden.
But the gardener's kids actually get to eat out of the garden. Yes, that's how it works.
you are not the norm.
I was out working in the garden last night, and so like I said, I got my corn weeded. So I got all the weeds out in between the corn. I put my corn rows really wide so I can run my tiller up and down the garden, so I don't have to worry about the weeds in the middle. And of course, with all the thunder showers we had in June. There was lots of weeds, but I was able to get the new corn as it came up, got that all weeded, fertilized the first time, and it's like 6 to 8 inches tall, so got the first fertilizer down, and then I was able to water half the corn last night, and then this morning I was a little late getting here, but it's because I was out running quickly to go put the corn on the other 3 rows of corn so they would get watered. I didn't want that fertilizer to sit out there all day without getting watered, and so that's going as well too. But I looked at the tomatoes. The tomatoes look amazing. The beans are all in bloom, so we're going to have beans next week. Onions are looking great. I harvested a couple kohlrabis. They look awesome, and I've got baby cucumbers. I got like 2-inch long cucumbers coming on my cucumbers. I'm so excited, and my cucumbers are suspended off of my wonder walls. So in the spring when I plant peas, which I did not plant this year because there was no spring to plant the peas
That's
with.
right.
Yeah. But I have had a lot of customers coming in saying they planted their peas anyway and they actually did really well.
We've got some coming up.
They're producing
that are doing
really well.
Now.
Yeah, I had a gentleman that called yesterday. He's like, my peas are like 5 feet tall and they are covered with like pea pods, and he said they're amazing. And I was like, oh, that's awesome, because I was kind of telling people, it's going to turn really hot really fast, and spring crops are not going to do really well. But then we had a cool, wet June.
Yeah.
And it kind of made up for it.
In my real life, I'm a metal fabricator, which sort of that's and we build huge planters for complexes down in Salt Lake.
Yes.
And I'm taking some of my scrap, and I've been making raised beds out of that. And so almost all of our garden is now in my scrap
raised bed
planters, and
nice.
And I'll tell you, the peas are coming up beautifully. Everything's coming up nice.
There's some distinct advantages to having raised beds, and we have found that the raised beds, especially if they're made out of metal, they don't get hotter than the regular ones.
That's true.
Yeah. So we have,
oddly enough,
we have experimented with metal containers and plastic containers and wood containers and composite containers, and they all kind of generate about the same amount of heat.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter if they're metal.
Well, we kind of enjoy the raised bed, and I always have. I started my first tomatoes in raised bed.
You can control the soil that way, and so you don't have to deal with the rocks, and you just have a better foundation to start with.
They're a little more expensive, but one time a guy told me, he says, Arthur, a guy will pay a lot of money for a good tomato plant.
It is true, because there's nothing that tastes better than fresh produce out of your own garden.
Nothing.
Out of your own garden. It's like you can walk out there, you can just like pick it, clean it, eat it right there.
We've got a strawberry patch.
It doesn't get better.
And my wife went out the other night, and she picked a little basket full of strawberries, walked in, poured some cream and sugar over those things, and I'll tell you, that is as good a dessert as you could ever
They
ask
lasted
for.
probably about, 30 seconds?
Well, we actually have a pretty good sized patch.
No, I'm saying they were so good. You ate them in 30 seconds.
Ate them in 30
it's like boom.
seconds,
I'm not saying that you.
But we get a lot of strawberries.
It's amazing, isn't
Wonderful.
it?
Yeah. And we got them from you.
Yeah, I went to one of my friends' homes the other day, and they had a raspberry patch that was maybe only like 8 feet long and 3 feet wide. And their raspberries their plants were just covered with berries. Yeah, just absolutely covered.
You don't have to have a huge amount.
No. It's amazing how much you can grow in a really small spot and satisfy kind of what you're looking for. But then when they stop producing, then you just kind of wish they would do more.
The grazing. I like the grazing.
The grazing is good. Okay, we've got another caller on the line. Phone lines are open, 753-5868, 753-KVNU, and we would love to have you join us here on the Garden Guide. Mark Anderson of Anderson Seed and Garden with my special guest Arthur Taylor from Sunstruck Gardens. And we've got Lyle on the phone. Lyle, welcome to the Garden Guide.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate you being available.
Yes.
I'm wondering, is it too late to do anything about early dye in potatoes?
You know what? Usually about mid-July, we recommend application of ammonium sulfate. So the ammonium sulfate will encourage a little bit of new growth to come on the potatoes. It will kind of help force the potatoes to work their way through that disease, and that's probably the best thing you can do. Just a side dressing of ammonium sulfate, which is what I did to my corn last night, so you can do your potatoes at the same time. And then I also have a couple disease controls that will work on early and late blight, whether it's on the tomatoes or on the potatoes, which are kind of in the same family anyway. The complete disease control from Monterey, or the fungicide 5 from Fertilome. It's a natural bacteria. It's a very beneficial bacteria, and it works on a lot of diseases, and it works especially on early and late blight. And so I would probably water them with that. You just mix it up in a watering can, just water the plants with it. You can get it on the leaves, but get it down in the soil because it will help fight the disease out of the soil. And then do that ammonium sulfate. That would make a huge difference, Lyle.
Okay, appreciate
All
that.
right. You're welcome. You're welcome. Good luck with your potatoes and the rest of your garden. So.
All right, thank you. And powdery mildew, does it take care of that, or do you need something else for that?
The complete disease control and the fungicide 5, they both work wonderfully on powdery mildew. And usually by the end of July, which is coming up, I start using them on my squashes, melons, and cucumbers because they tend to get powdery mildew late July, early August if we get some monsoonal moisture. So if we start seeing thunder showers and we get that higher humidity with the daytime heat and then the cool temperatures at night, that's when the mildew really, really starts to take off. And so I will use that preventatively on those plants to try and stop that before it happens, because then all of a sudden my pumpkin plants are all dead because the powdery mildew just wipes them out. So
I appreciate that information, Mark. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Have a wonderful weekend, Lau.
All right, same to you.
All right, thanks.
See, if you wouldn't have showed up,
I would have had to answer that question.
Yeah,
you would have had to answer that question.
I would have had no chance.
You can look things up, of course, on online, but they're not. But that's not always correct either, So it's not unusual for me to have people come in. They say, "Hey, I've searched this all over on the web, and I cannot find any information that consistently says the same thing." It's like, what should I do? So
okay, so if you ever watch Mark work, he stands in the store and people come to him.
Gather around,
and because he knows all these answers, and they only want to talk to him. I've watched this. For
it does happen.
Many years.
And then I flap my arms up and down because I learned how to speak with my hands when I was in Italy. So
that's right. You went back again.
Well, we were there last month. Yeah, it's the first time I've been back in 30 years. Yeah. Because I've been working so hard at Anderson's, we haven't had time to go. So that's just kind of the way.
Cry
it works.
me a river.
I know.
It's
terrible. It's terrible. So, but there's some amazing gardens in Italy to take a look at too. So that was fun. We saw some great gardens while we were there.
I was watching a little film, and they're very simple in how they prepare food.
Yeah,
they're very few ingredients.
That's the way to go. Yeah,
and they like to do it fresh.
Yeah.
So
fresh is best, especially when you can walk out your back door and get it right there, and it's like consume.
A little basket of tomatoes or strawberries.
I always tell people there's nothing like growing your own and harvesting it and eating it. And even if you go to the farmer's market or if you go to the roadside stand, they probably picked it at least yesterday, if not a little bit longer, because farmer's market, they're setting up right now. I mean, they were setting up at like 7 o'clock this morning. I can guarantee you they didn't go out at 5 o'clock this morning and go and harvest stuff.
Very difficult to wake up that early.
They picked it yesterday, and they're selling it today. Yeah. So it has sat around for a little bit of time, and it's still super fresh, but it's not like going and picking it and eating it while you stand in your garden.
The satisfaction is unrivaled.
I can hardly wait for my cucumbers. Yeah. That's like my favorite. The cucumbers and the beans, when they start coming on, there's just nothing like it. You just cannot beat it. So, all right, phone lines are open, 753-5868, 753-KVNU, and Al's hiding over here. Al, do we want to take a break?
Well,
do we want to take
let's
that
do
call?
A real quick break, and then we'll get Virginia on.
Okay. All right. If that's okay, Virginia, hang on. We're going to take a really short break.
Just got to take a quick news break, Virginia, but we'll be right back to you.
And then we'll be right back. Yeah. And then Al has a question that we have to answer well, too.
Okay.
I'm Bill Walter, KBNU News. A 61-year-old Logan man has admitted to shooting and killing a coworker at a Millville construction site 2 years ago. Lorenzo Tina Vasquez accepted a plea deal that could save him from spending the rest of his life in prison. The plea agreement came Thursday during the fifth day of Tina Vasquez's jury trial in First District Court in Logan. He pleaded guilty to murder, a first-degree felony, and discharge of a firearm reduced to a second-degree felony. Defense attorney Brian Sidwell explained that as part of the deal, prosecutors agreed to dismiss 6 remaining charges. They also will recommend Tina Vasquez serve a term of 15 years to life in prison and be given credit for time already served. Tina Vasquez shot and killed Ariano Nieto Giovanni, a 29-year-old man, at a home construction site on August 12, 2021. He surrendered to Cache County Sheriff's deputies nearby, still with blood on his clothing, and admitting he had shot the man. Tina Vasquez told deputies that he and Giovanni were co-workers and had been in a confrontation earlier that morning in which he said the victim had threatened him. The Utah Department of Corrections is investigating the death of Lo Key, an 8-year-old Belgian Malinois and canine officer who was found dead in a canine vehicle at the Utah State Correctional Facility Thursday evening. The circumstances surrounding Lo Key's death are currently not known, according to a press release. Executive Director Brian Redd said they are mourning along with all their staff and at the same time committed to fully investigating the circumstances of Lo Key's passing. Very hot temperatures this weekend, mid-90s Saturday, around 101 on Sunday, lows mid to upper 50s. For the latest news, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
From ABC Sports, I'm Mike Dabusky. Major League Baseball returning last night after the All-Star break. The league-leading Braves continued their dominance at the expense of the lowly White Sox.
Olsen leads all qualified first basemen, home runs, RBIs, slugging, lots of other categories. 1-0 is driven high and deep to right. It's the grandest of all home runs.
The call on 680 The Fan, that grand slam putting the Braves up 4-0 early. They'd win 9-zip. An interleague battle in the East Divisions. The Orioles hosting the Marlins. Adam Frazier had 3 hits, including 2 souvenir blasts to the stands.
Pitch on the way, fly ball, hit pretty well, deep right field, way back, and Frazier has done it again. Second homer of the night, this time a 2-run shot.
That call from WBAL. The Orioles now have won 6 straight dating back to before the break. 5-2 the final score. This is ABC Sports.
Taking the guesswork out of gardening. It's the Garden Guide with Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Good morning. We are back here on the Garden Guide. Mark Anderson with Anderson Seed and Garden, and my special guest Arthur from Sunstruck Gardens. And not only are we talking about tomato cages and wonder walls and cherry towers and all those great things, but we have to solve the world's problems while we're here also.
Which one is that?
in between segments, we talk about everything.
On a personal level, but I would never say these things on the air.
That's what. that's one of the things we always have to get together for lunch and go and talk about. How can we fix all these things?
Yeah.
So, and one of those is I'm just not going to fight. I'm not going to argue.
Yeah. We're done.
So that's kind of how that works.
Yeah.
Phone lines are open. We would love to have you join us here on the Garden Guide. 753-5868, 753-KVNU. At the top of the hour, we talked about our Mad Money sale, which is going on right now. So Mad Money sale goes today. Actually, it started on Monday. Went through this whole week, so it's continuing today, and we're going to go through Wednesday of next week. So if you want to come in and spend your Mad Money at Anderson's, you can do that all the way through Wednesday of next week. And Mad Money sale is one of the best ways for us to give back to our customers. So for every $10 that you've spent in the store, you will have $1 in Mad Money to come back in and spend during our Mad Money sale. If you've been giving us your customer number, which is actually your phone number, and then we track that on our computer system at Anderson's. We don't share that information with anyone. It's just in-house, so some people are a little concerned about doing that, but we don't share any information. And it's really nice when we have your customer number, or when you leave your keys at the store, we can actually call you and say, hey, you left your keys here at the store. I can't figure out how people get home without their keys, but they do somehow.
I found a wallet in the road yesterday.
Did you really?
Or not yesterday, 2 days ago. I walked back into the place where, in front of where we found it. The guy said, "Oh, he just came here." Called him up.
Yep.
Wallet
Boom.
solved.
There it is. Yeah. It's nice. It's kind of a nice feature. So, Mad Money sale going on. I mentioned at the top of the hour also that we've got a new batch of fruit trees. We have 400 fruit trees coming early next week, probably on Monday afternoon or Tuesday afternoon, and we'll be restocked on fruit trees. So if you're looking for peaches or nectarines or apricots, which we've been out of for months, we've got those coming back in stock. And we've got some really, really great varieties if you need to replace some trees. So fruit trees are coming in at Anderson's. And we also have Virginia on the line, who's been waiting for us patiently. Virginia, thank you so much for waiting through the break. And thanks for calling in.
Fine.
Yeah.
Last year, we bought 3 roses of Sharon.
Okay.
And they grew and they bloomed. And then this spring, nothing. And they just, I guess the winter just killed them down.
It is a possibility.
I thought, well, I'll dig them out. But then my son said, "Oh, leave them. Let's see what happens." Well, they're coming out from the bottom out of the ground now.
Yes.
And what do I do with them now?
So the Rose of Sharon are regularly fairly hardy. This winter we saw a lot of trees and shrubs that are normally very resistant, really get some damage because of the unusual weather that we had. We had a really hard start to the season. It went really cold the end of October, and then we had snow on the ground early in November, and it just kind of stuck around. Then we had those sub-zero temperatures for 2 weeks where it got 20 below, even colder in parts of the valley. Did some damage. Those Rose of Sharon are very resilient, and they in most cases they are not grafted onto a hardier rootstock, and so the parts that are damaged, just trim those out until you find green tissue, and where you've got new shoots coming up, those will replace the ones that you're taking out. And so I would do a little bit of fertilization just to encourage some new growth. I would probably...
And what do I fertilize with?
Oh, like Fertilum has a really nice tree and shrub food that would be great. I also like either the Kangaroos or the Boomerang for plants that have been damaged or stressed and are kind of struggling. That would be great to water.
Some of that.
Water them with that to really encourage some root development as well. And hopefully...
That stuff works.
Yeah, hopefully by the end of the summer, they'll be flourishing again. I'll tell you, the root system will be very well established, because when you lose the tops of the shrubs like that, where there's a lot of damage, the root system is bigger because it's created this larger plant. And so when the plant is much smaller, all of a sudden the root system is very healthy and big, and then you get a lot of growth that comes back. So they'll recover very quickly because you've got a nice big heavy healthy root system. So
yeah, well, I got some of that stuff with them that you just said when we bought them. But what do I do this fall? How do I put them to bed?
So this fall, I don't do any pruning on them. I wait until spring to prune mine, and they don't need any special mulching or anything. So the best thing we can do is focus on just getting them really healthy this summer, and hopefully winter will not just come instantly this fall like it did last year and last for 6 months. Yeah, we just don't want it to last for 6 months. So.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Well, okay. I thought, well, if they can grow them in the Bible, I guess I could grow them. But
yes.
Jack Frost thought otherwise.
Tried to kill those off, but they are resilient and they're coming back. So it sounds good, Virginia.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for calling this morning. You have a wonderful weekend.
You as well.
Thanks.
Point of order, Mark.
Yes, Arthur.
We noticed this year the hard winter may have been hard on the bees.
Absolutely.
Have you heard that?
I lost 2 hives in February. So I checked them quickly in January, because through January we'd had a lot of snow, but it hadn't gotten super cold.
Right.
And so the winter was really quite delightful through that first part of the winter. And I went out and I checked my bees, and both hives were a buzzing inside, and they seemed healthy and were doing great. I didn't open them up, but you can hear what's going on inside. And by the middle of February they were dead. And then when I opened them up this spring, they had plenty of honey. There was plenty of honey left over that they had to nibble on. It just was so cold it froze them right in the hive. Just froze them. So I've heard that from many, many, many people.
Yeah, we in our orchard we had almost 0 bees.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but I got new hives, and they're a buzzing. So they're going.
How many hives do you
crazy.
have?
I have 2.
You have 2.
Yeah, so I've got one in Dad's orchard, and then I've got one in my backyard, and our yards are next to each other. And so we have the 2 hives, and I have had 3 in years past, but 3 is more work than I like.
Yeah.
So I have other jobs that I have to take care of.
We have a friend who kept her bees
at
our place, and she checked them in, I believe, February. After the cold,
and they were fine. They're still okay.
And then they died.
Interesting.
In March, April sometime.
Yeah. My hives were super healthy last year. Going into the fall, they were as healthy as I can remember any of my hives being. We didn't have any signs of mites. We didn't see any disease. They just were super healthy. And like I said, they were doing great in January, but after February, everybody was frozen inside. When I cracked it open, you could tell they were.
Does it impact? Does the lack of bees? Are they impacting anything now? You
know,
heard?
apples and pears are absolutely loaded.
Yeah,
so somebody
that's
got out.
true.
Somebody got out and did some pollinating.
Something happened.
Yeah, so somebody was out pollinating for sure because I've got more apples and pears than we've had for 3 years. Yeah, they're just absolutely loaded. So that's all right. So phone lines are open. We've got about 15 minutes in the show left. 753-5868, 753-KVNU. We'd love to have you join us here on the Garden Guide, and we've got Gordon waiting to visit. Good morning, Gordon. Welcome to the Garden Guide.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Yeah.
How we doing this morning?
Doing great. How about you?
I remember the first time that Arthur was on the program.
It's been a while.
Because I called in, and he gave me a couple sets of handy cages as a very nice gift. And I have used those and many others that I've bought since through the years, and they still look like they're brand new.
I hope everybody continues to add to their collection on a yearly basis. You can never have too many.
Yeah, yep.
Thank you.
We have loved those, and we have used them for multitudes of various things. You know, they're so useful, and the shapes are such that you can fit them together and do things like block the fence so the dog can't get out.
Exactly.
And, you know, the square ones, we really like them because we have our tomatoes in great big pots. We don't have a big garden area anymore, and so we have these big pots. And those, even if your tomatoes are fairly big, you can still carefully work them around and get them in without breaking any branches off, which is tough to do with the round ones.
Not only do they house tomatoes, but you can use them to make kind of a trellis to do your cucumbers with. You can lay them down on the ground to put frost cloth over them so it keeps your seedlings from freezing. I currently am using one to block a hole in my fence to keep the deer out because it got caught in one of the tines of my tillers and it ripped a section of my fence. And so I've used a handy cage there to keep the stupid deer out. So,
you know, I ought to have a little contest of what's the
so
most
handy.
Innovative thing you've ever used a handy cage
That's
for.
a great idea.
Yeah.
I like that.
I think you'd find some really interesting submissions on various things that they have used them for.
Yeah.
And
Gordon, you know, the whole invention of the handy cage came around trying to put a plant in a square planter. And we needed something that would fit into the corner.
Yeah.
And it turns out that they work great for potted plants,
Nice.
and if they're big enough.
Yep.
Yeah.
Putting a square peg in a round circle, huh?
I'll pay you the $100 later, Gordon. We'll talk.
I'll tell you what, we have got used to it, and like I say, when you look at the ones the originals, I wouldn't be able to go out and say, oh, those were the ones.
That's the first one.
That we've had for forever.
Yep.
They look just the same.
Honestly,
they're not rusted. They're not.
Yeah.
The only way you can tell, and you can tell, is if the bend of the angle or of the rod in the corner is got a bit of a radius to it. Those would have been the first ones.
Those would have been the first ones.
Yeah. We've got
you bend them a little bit different
We've
now.
got a huge press brake now, and they have a sharp bend, sharp corner.
Interesting. So you can look for that, Gordon, in your cages.
Okay.
But I've got my prototypes from the first time that we brought them. I mean, they still are in great shape. You know, it's like powder coat still looks good.
Shout out to Dutro,
yeah,
and their powder coat
Yeah,
system.
their
I'll tell you
powder
what,
coating-
$1.5 million get you something.
Yeah. Their powder coat is spectacular. We have to admit, because I've got some cages that are probably close to 20 years old, and the powder coat's still holding up on them.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And they stay out all summer long. I do bring them in the winter. So
I put mine in a special covers.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
like a grill cover for yours. Yeah. No,
$29.95.
Mine stay out all winter, all summer. They go in the barn in the wintertime, obviously, but they are holding up great. And that goes for my sun cages and my Wonder Walls as well too. So.
Okay, now there's some joking going around here. We don't want anybody calling their attorneys. We're just trying to have a little fun, folks.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. We always have fun.
We have truly loved them. Now, with your business with the bees,
yes,
the upside to that is I have seen maybe 2 wasps all spring.
Oh,
So
interesting.
it took out the bees, but it also took out that huge population of wasps.
Which we had a ton of them last year. Yeah, we had.
Oh, we
tons.
did.
Yeah.
We were overwhelmed last year. So So there's an upside to that, although our neighbor lost all 3 of his hives.
Yeah.
And so.
Yes.
Okay, well, I'll let you go.
sad.
I'm sure there's probably other folks that want to call in. Appreciate talking to you. Oh, the roses, I had to prune mine down to about 1.5 feet high, but it's like this giant carpet of huge roses. They have produced like crazy, but they're only slightly, they're down lower than the little fence.
Yeah.
And so this has been an oddball year.
It has been interesting, yeah. The cool, wet weather in June was really great for the roses, too.
It was.
So they just it just didn't get so hot that they just like stopped producing. So it's been a really, since the 1st of May, it's been an amazing summer. The weather's been just like absolutely perfect. So.
And Newton Dam is full, so we can water our lawn again this year.
Big difference from last year.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. 1 year. All it takes is 1 year to fill her up sometimes. So, Gordon, thanks for sharing that.
Let's go.
Thank you.
Thanks, Arthur.
Thank you very much,
Sure love the
Gordon.
product.
Thank you.
Okay, see ya.
All right, have a great one, Gordon. All right, phone lines are open if you'd like to join us. We've got about 10 minutes left. 753-5868. 753-KVNU. And we've got another caller waiting. Janet, welcome to the Garden Guide.
Hello. How are you guys?
Doing great this morning. Thanks for asking.
Okay. Well, I actually was just calling real quick. Just same thing as Gordon is like, I love my handy cages so much. I'm actually the garden that Arthur came to film the...
Oh,
yes. Yes.
Up in Idaho?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I'm out in my garden weeding, and I missed the first half of the program, but I turned it on. And I just wanted to say, I actually have to, my garden's quite large, I have to broadcast my water. So that means I'm dragging hoses everywhere.
Yes.
And I have not found a better place. I use my handy cages on the edges of like my flowers in the front or my whatever I don't want to ruin with those hoses dragging around.
As a hose guide.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and I absolutely love them. They work better.
Come into the store and pick up a pair on me.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah, I'm serious about that. Get some big handies. Yeah.
I will.
We do.
I already have two. I could use another one.
Yeah, we do have some. We do have some big handies, and I do the same thing. I've got my tomatoes in kind of strategic locations, so where I can drag my hose and kind of go around the corner, and it just guides it.
Right.
Yeah, so it's also holding a tomato at the same time, but
Right. Right. And so mine are from a long time ago, and they get babied none. They are left outside.
Yep.
They get all the horrible things, and they still work great.
Yeah.
And they're fabulous.
Yep.
I love them.
I
can always use more, so that's awesome.
I always have I always have customers that come in and they're like looking at the sturdy cage or the handy cages and the sun cages, and they're like, these are like so much more expensive. And I got the cheap ones right there. And I always look at them and I say, you know what? This one's going to last like 1 season, maybe 2 if you're lucky. And this one I've had for 20 years, and I rarely, if ever, have a return on them. Like my handy cages, I've never had somebody return them for like a defect ever.
Yeah. They're awesome. I love them so much. But you were talking about the bees, and that is something. I don't have beehives, but I have plenty of hobbies around me and commercial ones too. So I always have tons of bees, and we've had none. I mean, none. And so I started talking to some people, and the same thing you're saying is their hives just all died.
Yeah.
And so I'm just getting them now, and I don't know what that is, but how did things get pollinated? I don't understand.
Yeah, they were still out there working, even though we didn't realize it. So,
well, there's other
pollinators as well too. Yeah, so other than just honeybees.
Yeah, but I really didn't see a lot of anything. I did see bumblebees, but
and the bumblebees are really
more than normal.
Yeah, the bumblebees are really good pollinators as well too. And we did have a lot of wind, and the wind can spread pollen as well. And
true story. That must have been it.
Yep. And right now, I'm seeing lots of bees inside, like all the flowers of my pumpkins and squashes and things. So there's a lot.
You know, Utah is the beehive state.
It is.
So surprising. It's surprising that any bees get to Idaho.
Yeah. Well, I'm only 2 miles over the border. So.
All right. And bees can fly at least 2 miles. So no problem there.
Definitely. If squash bugs can do it, they can do it.
Yeah, exactly. So. I saw some squash bugs in my garden a couple of weeks ago, and it's like, okay, repellent and insecticide are going out. So
I was just looking. And in fact, I went here to Anderson's and I bought stuff just to get ready for powdery mildew because with this weather, I'm just waiting.
It's going to crop up. Yep, it's going to crop up. So
we'll need that for our pumpkins.
Pumpkins, squashes, melons.
All right.
Yeah, for sure.
All of them.
Yeah.
But anyways, I just had to call in real quick and just tell Arthur I just love your product and I hope it's been a good venture for you because I don't ever want to go away.
To my eye.
It was away and I was dying. I needed some and I couldn't get them.
There you go. All right, Janet.
All right.
Thanks so much for calling in this morning.
Yep, thank you.
All right.
You know, I have to give a shout out to my wife. She pruned our entire orchard.
Oh. Wow,
and
nice. You have more than one tree.
We have 80.
Yeah, you have more than one tree.
And I was relegated to directed chainsawing and cleanup.
Okay.
She asked me to. I started to try to help, and then she said, "No, go. You just do this," and she took out a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I cannot believe how many apples we have.
Yes. And a lot of times you do that heavy pruning, and you go, these trees look like sticks.
Yeah.
You know, and then a month later you're like,
it's amazing.
They
isn't
look
it?
really good.
Yeah. It's picture perfect.
So what I do is I will take my new crews at Logan Extermination, and I will bring them to my dad's orchard, and we'll spend a day. And we've already spent like classwork time, so we're like in the classroom for many hours. But then I'll take them out, and we'll spend the day just pruning in my dad's orchard, and they get a lot of good hands-on experience. And I show them how I do mine, and then I let them kind of start on some with me supervising, and then I let them kind of go and just kind of keep an eye on them that way. And we were pretty aggressive on the trees this spring. Like some of them, I was looking at them going, dang, you guys were like really.
We had a wonderful
pruned,
fire.
Yeah, really pruned like crazy. And at this point in the season, you can't even tell where they pruned them.
No.
Yeah, can't even tell what they pruned them. And so they come right back, and just so much fruit. We've got to thin, but now's the time for your next application of insecticide. If you haven't put yours on, make sure you get your second application on right now. And then we're going to have another one coming up the first part of August. So another flight of calling moths. So we want to get on top of those. So when there's that much fruit, make sure and get it thinned. Should have one fruit every 6 to 8 inches on the tree, if possible. If you have clusters, that's where the codling moth really do a lot of damage because they'll get in between the apples and they'll burrow into the apples that way. So better to get them separated so you don't have clusters of apples. So that makes a big difference. Al, you said you did have a question.
Okay, the only thing was, I have this. There was a big spruce that had to be cut down, and it was so expensive to cut that down.
Yes.
And move it out of my backyard through the gate and everything that I had to leave some of the stump.
Right.
And so I got things grow along the edges of the roots and the stump, and I can pull a lot of the weeds out of that area.
Right.
But some next to it are just they're so tight in there, you can't pull that stuff out, especially along the roots. So what do I use there?
Right. So you can use a product like Roundup or Killzall or even Decimate and kill what's there, and it won't affect the surrounding plants.
Decimate?
Decimate, yes. I love the Decimate. It's like one of my favorite products. Guess who came up with the name for Decimate?
Somebody in a war-torn area.
No, it was me.
It's your own creation.
Yeah, so they were asking for names for this product, and I was like, hey, let's call it Decimate. And they're like, ooh, we love that. It's like, we're gonna use that. So, yeah, so I actually had a hand in naming that product. However, if you mix a pre-emergent in with it, because you said you've sprayed Roundup and you've killed that section, but then you have to do it again. It's like 2 weeks later, it's like the weeds are all coming back again. And so if you mix a pre-emergent in with it, like a Treflan or Surflan, then it will kill what's out there, but then it will prevent new ones from coming up for 4 to 6 months.
Okay.
So you could do one application, kill what's out there.
I can live through the series.
Prevent all the weeds from coming up for the rest of the year. Like I use it in my patio, so I don't have weeds coming up in the cracks of all the flagstone, and I use it on my hillside, and I use it in the orchard as well too, where Dad's orchard is, and I'll spray once and basically don't have to worry about weeding the rest of the year.
You're getting cut off from your own
amazing.
show.
I know it does happen. It does happen. So
see, my question was so complex.
Yes, that's it. That's it. So
I'm amazed at all these people who could grow great stuff, because I enjoy it. Wherever I can find it, buy it, or whatever, because I don't have much of a green thumb.
That's
I don't get into that. My interests obviously are, a long time ago I should have developed it. I didn't.
Things.
So
yeah, that's all right.
it.
So Roundup kills all.
Okay.
Pre-emergent, you're set. Yep. And everyone, thanks for listening to the show. Mad Money sales going on right now. Fruit trees coming in next week. Lots of fun things happening at Anderson's. We will be back next week with another edition of The Garden Guide.
This is a situation that is rapidly spinning out of control.
Get it all here. News Talk KVNU Logan, 610 AM and